Hello everyone, it's Jasmita. Welcome back to my channel. Another day, another makeup look. Today we're going to do a beautiful tri-colored eye makeup look. I wore this look the other day when I went shopping and I got so many compliments, like from strangers. It was kind of crazy. Main focus of today's look is the eyes. So I am doing my base, but I'll show you what I do like kind of quickly. Moisturizer and sunscreen are already on. That's why my face is so dewy looking. So first I'm going to do foundation using Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless in 230, applying a thin even layer on one side of my face, wet latex sponge, tap to blend. To be honest with you, base makeup kind of bores me. Like I'm not saying I neglect my base or anything, it's just, you know, the fun part is the eyes, so I don't do anything insane for this. I would suggest to only wear face primer if you have like a long day or an event. So I don't always use it. I have normal to dry skin, so I don't really have too many problems with my face getting oily throughout the day. So I don't use face primer that much. Does anyone else feel like putting foundation on your forehead is so annoying? Just doing any makeup on my forehead is so annoying. A little bit extra under my eyes, whatever's left on my jaw. Again, if you need extra coverage, just go in with more foundation and just your finger. If you have two different concealer shades, definitely use the one that's closer to your skin tone for this part. Don't put your lighter concealer on your imperfections because it's gonna highlight that. Next, I'm using bronzer. This is e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wand Contour in medium tan. I like to do a line all around my face like this to start, and on my nose as well. And then a little bit on my cheek for my cheek bronzer. Taking an angled fluffy brush, I will just blend this out. Kind of in tapping motions, not really like swiping that much, and always brushing it towards like the perimeter of my face. With the cheek placement, I will try to blend this like on and a little bit below my cheekbone. Remember, bronzer doesn't have to be super precise. You can kind of put it on the perimeter, mostly the perimeter of your face, and it'll look fine. Contour is the one that you have to really be careful with the color and the placement that you pick. It's gonna change up your whole face depending on what you do. With bronzer, it's just to create a tanning effect, so you don't have to be as careful. Next is concealer. I like to place it in the inner corner like that, and then the outer corner, straight line on my forehead like this, and down my nose, but very thin, above my lip and my chin. These placements are more for highlight, and this is for actual concealing. I like to use the flat end. For blush, I'm using also the e.l.f. Halo Glow in Rosé You Slay. Cheekbones and a little up above each eyebrow like that. On my nose and a little on my chin. You don't necessarily have to put your blush like this, you can just put it on your cheeks as well. I like this look because overall it gives a blushed effect, and it kind of makes your whole face, like the colors of it, look a little bit more cohesive. Blending with like a flat brush. With my cheek blush, I just stipple it and brush slightly when I need to blend, and I will even bring it underneath my eyes so that there's no separation between the concealer and the blush. I'm really excited for the eye look that we're doing today because it's so perfect for the warmer months, especially if you're like going out to somewhere special or a party or something. It's gonna look amazing. Eye primer, Milani eyeshadow primer. It's blending that on my lid, crease, even up to my brow bone, anywhere that I'm gonna put eyeshadow, the inner corner and the lower lash line. It's got a slightly tacky feel, and I also noticed that it's got a little bit of color in it. It's not completely see-through. Next, I'm using my e.l.f. Halo Glow powder in light. It's a loose powder, so pick it up evenly on your puff and blend creases and powder immediately. This is how I always powder my eyes so that I can avoid creasing as much as I possibly can. Still, when I do this, sometimes they do crease, but that really just depends on how long you're wearing your makeup. Then I'm just messily taking the powder and just pressing it into my skin just for the sake of mattifying it and kind of setting it. I'm gonna use a second powder with a brush so that you can get rid of all of this like powderiness. It also helps to set the powder further, but I will say that both of the powders I'm using today are talc free. I don't know if I've ever even tried a talc powder. If you have oily skin, I think you should try talc powder. For my normal skin, sometimes it's dry depending on the weather. This works pretty well, especially because I'm using two powders. It works really well. Okay, so you can see now that I'm done how powdery and uneven that looks. We're gonna fix that immediately. So this is the powder I was telling you about, Covergirl Clean in the shade Ivory. Big fluffy brush like this. Just dust that on your face. Going over everything with this powder. Even though my skin is normal to dry, throughout the day it does produce a little bit of a shine. So this foundation, even though it's matte and poreless, it looks kind of like satin at the end of the day. For my brows, I'm using the e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette, and I like to use two colors, these two. Mostly use this one and a little bit of this one. I'm more so just like darkening my eyebrows than filling them in because they're pretty filled in already. So wherever it's a little bit sparse, I'll add a little bit more color so that they look sort of even, but I will always make sure this area right here has the least color. I personally don't really like the blocky look, especially for base. I like my base to look as natural as possible, and then the eyes can be like crazy, you know? Then brushing through with a spoolie so that I can even out the color or like lighten it up in some places, especially at the front here. I'm using the Rimmel Wonderful Brow Clear Gel. And I kind of like to brush them upwards and outwards in a sort of messy way so that they look, again, natural, like I've been outside and they're like going crazy in the wind. I'm done with the first part of my base, and this is the part where I like to move on to my eyes. So for my eyeshadow, I am using two products, these two pigments. They're discontinued, sorry about that. You don't necessarily have to use any of the products that I'm using, whether they're discontinued or not. If you want colors that are similar to this, you can even use whatever eyeshadow you have, or you can do different color stories if you'd like. But if you want similar colors, then I would recommend this palette. You can use the blues and the greens in here. This is a great palette. I highly recommend this. It's really pigmented when you apply the shades with your fingers, and then a lot less pigmented when you need to use a brush. So if you're a beginner, it should be perfect for you. So since I'm using pigments, this is from Colourpop, the KathleenLights and Colourpop collaboration. There's 12 of these because it's part of a Zodiac collection, and I'm using the Fish and the Water Bearer. It's a very iridescent green and again a very iridescent dark blue. When you're using pigments, always remember they need to have some kind of medium to stick on. So you can use like MAC Fix Plus, or what I'm gonna use today is NYX Glitter Glue. If you're using pigments like I am, remember that it will usually come with a stopper like this. This is the lid. This is the lid, and it will come with a stopper like this, and this is where the powder is. So you have this protector so that it doesn't just leak out. I got this so many years ago. Look, it's almost still full. It's crazy. This is why I recommend you get pigments. They last forever. Now, before we start, I'm gonna take my glitter glue and place a little bit of that, about that much, on the back of my hand and spread it out like that. And then whatever's on my finger, you don't need a lot. I'm going to take that and place directly onto my lid specifically focusing on the first half. This also dries down quick, so you gotta really move. You can get your pigment on your finger from the stopper or from the container itself. If you feel like you've picked up too much pigment and you don't want to put that on your eye, you can just tap it off on the stopper and then pick that up the next time you need to get more color. So now I have pretty good amount, pressing that directly onto the areas that I used the glitter. It's so pretty. When you need more, just apply more. It's okay if it gets a little bit on top of the glitter because you're just gonna apply more on top anyway. If you're having trouble picking up the pigment, try to use the same finger that you used for the glitter glue and it should come up really well. If not, you can also wet your fingers with Fix Plus and that will be easier for you to pick up the pigment. I mean, if you're using eyeshadow, it's so easy. You don't really have to do all this. Putting that everywhere. Now, I'm not using a transition color. I'm not using a crease color. So what I'm doing is I'm even getting the pigment into like right below my crease so that I can blend it up into my crease so that it doesn't look like it's just on my lid. If you are doing a look similar to this where you're putting eyeshadow just on the lid, blend it into the crease for sure. Even if it's a light color, even if it's a shimmery color, even if it's glitter, blend it a little bit into your crease so that it actually looks like your eyeshadow is fading up into your skin. When you have a harsh line and then nothing, it's gonna look a little weird. Picking up just a little bit more and then putting it here as well. If you use your pigments with Fix Plus versus if you use them with glitter glue, they will look different. So with glitter glue, it enhances the glittery aspect of your pigment if your pigment is glittery. And if you use Fix Plus, it will hold a lot less as well for like less time and it will look shimmery but not so much glittery. So this is your best friend for this makeup look. And if you're using pigments, getting a little bit more glue, spreading it around once again, just placing that down. I'm closing my pigment with the stopper and shaking it up and down so that it collects on the stopper and it also like sits flat on the surface so that I can pick it up easier. So you're just alternating between glue and your pigment or glitter eyeshadow. Pack on as much as you possibly can. Sometimes when you tap out the pigments too much, they can look a little sheer. So just really get it on there. And then I'm applying it, like I said, a little bit into the crease so that I'm gonna blend it out with a brush later so that it can look gradient, like a seamless blend. The seamless blend is very important. Now I'm grabbing my usual eyeshadow brush, and then you can even pick up a little bit of pigment if you'd like. I think I will. A tiny bit on one end of the brush, you see that? Now I'm using that to blend this into the crease. You can tilt your head back a little bit so that you can see if you've actually got the eyeshadow or the pigment in your crease. And if you pick up too much of the pigment, just tap it off on the stopper. As you can see, that has blended very nicely in my crease, but some of the pigment on the lid is like fading. So adding more on. I'm gonna close that back up and shake it up again. It's getting indented into the container. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of Fix Plus. I'm picking it up on my finger again. And I'm gonna place the same color on my inner corner as well. I'm gonna place like a different highlight on top, but I want this to be like the base of that color. And all along my lower lash line, the full thing. For this part, you probably only need Fix Plus, but if you really want it to stay for hours, try the glitter glue once again. When working with dark colors or really colorful products, take it slow and don't add too much product to begin with. A little bit more glitter glue. And on my outer corner here, placing that down and picking up my blue pigment. This is like a brilliant blue shimmery kind of color. This is a tough spot to blend, so just take your time. And I'm trying to create an overall rounded shape, so that's why I'm really slow and being precise with where I put that pigment down. Be sure that you have a seamless blend between these two colors as well. If you don't, apply more of the lighter color on top of the darker color. I'm picking up a little bit more of that green and placing it on top of the separation between the two colors so that it blends better. With my brush, picking up a little bit of that blue shade, but only a little because it's so bright and pigmented, and going over top, wiping off a little bit. Actually, I took too much and it's mostly clean now, so I'm just going to blend into the crease. You see that blue up here? I don't like the way that looks, so I'm just going to gently try to brush that off, or like wipe it off. Blending out the edges of that and the separation between the two colors so that the green and blue look like a gradient, and intensifying the value of the color so that you can see it's a little bit darker than it is around that area. Hopefully that made sense. I know that was pretty fast because you have to work fast with pigments. I would invest in pigments if you're looking for something that's going to last you years, and if you're looking for something that's like shimmery and glittery, or if you don't want to do everything the way I just did, it was kind of stressful, then just stick with eyeshadow or glitter eyeshadow. It'll do the same thing. I'm just using these pigments because I don't have similar shades in eyeshadows that are these colors. You know, I just took a closer look at my eyes and I'm realizing I've got a little bit more blue on this side than I do on this side, so I'm gonna fix that really quickly. I'm not gonna add any more Fix Plus or any more glue. Pick up my brush. Brush adds it in a very soft way, which I like a lot because it's got that built-in blended effect. So you don't have to do much, especially if you're using a fluffy brush like this. That's what I recommend. Let's move back to the face. Going all around my face, the perimeter first, like I did with the cream bronzer, just to add a little color, like I've got a little bit of a tan. And I'm using kind of like a big fluffy brush. I think this is the multitask brush from Real Techniques. The sides of my nose. For my cheeks, I'm just going to go on the cheekbone and then a little bit below that. Essence blush in 05 Pretty Peach. Also with like a big fluffy brush like this, pick up a lot of it. And on the cheekbone and a little bit dragged up here. Same places that I put my cream blush. I only apply a little bit on the other areas of my face, like the nose, forehead, and chin, but really focusing a lot on my cheeks. For my inner corner highlight, I'm gonna use this shimmery green shade from the I Know That's Bright palette by NYX. For my lower lash line, I'm gonna add a little bit of purple. I'm using the color Amethyst from Colourpop KathleenLights So Jaded palette. I'm sorry, this is also discontinued. Very vibrant purple. Placing that on the outer third, fading it into the halfway mark. I'm gonna use the same shade, that same purple color, as my eyeliner. So with eyeshadows as eyeliners, definitely use Fix Plus so that your eyeshadow isn't so powdery when you put it on as eyeliner, because you know you have to be a little bit more precise when you're doing your eyeliner, especially if you're gonna do a wing, and I am, so I have to have like a medium to hold it together. Top off the excess and using a angled brush. I'm going to draw a full line across my upper lash line. I don't usually do this, but I like it this time because it adds a little bit of extra color to my look since I'm not doing black eyeliner. So drawing a very thin line across my lash line, close to the lashes as I can, feathering out that line so that it's a little bit blended looking. That's so pretty. Same thing on this side. Try to keep your eyes open when you do your eyeliner. Honestly, I don't know if that's hard. I've heard people say that it's like really hard, especially when you use eyeshadow as eyeliner because it's powdery and it definitely gets in your eye. But I never close my eyes when I do my eyeliner because I can't see how it looks, you know? So this is brown. So I'm putting it in the inner corner. If your eyeliner is like a crayon like this and it feels like it's like dulled or it's not bright anymore, just take off the top layer of it. This is the black one on top. Even though I've got that purple eyeliner, the black and brown, which I usually use as my regular eyeliner as when I do my tight line, gives a little bit of extra definition that my eyes were missing. So you can see that darkness up there really brings your focus to my eyes, and it also makes them look proportional in color and size. I'm gonna do my highlight now, and I'm actually gonna use that same green shade. I'm so excited. I really like that. In person, it definitely looks green, but I really love a colored highlight. Any highlight that's like glittery, I'm there. I don't care what color it is. Just the usual places that I would highlight: my chin, above my eyebrow, my forehead, above my eyebrow, the inner part. A little bit of a setting mist so that all of these powder products can really melt into my skin. The setting mist I used helps with the longevity as well, a little bit, as well as making your powders look more skin-like. Just adding a couple of freckles. So to continue the colorful theme of my eye makeup, I'm gonna use blue mascara. So I got this from, it's the She Glam blue mascara. It comes with 2 wands. This is the mascara container. And then this wand is like a really fluffy, larger size. Like with any mascara, just wipe off whatever is at the end. It's kind of a drier formula. It's really interesting. If you have light hair and light lashes, this blue is gonna look very blue on you. But for me, since I have dark hair, dark lashes, it always takes a second for me to really build this up. As always, wiggle your wand through. I can't lie, the wand of this is a little bit pokey, and it especially feels that way because the formula of this mascara is so dry too. Brush your middle lashes up, your inner lashes inwards, and your outer lashes outwards so that your eyes look 3D. With this mascara, I have to do about 2 coats at least so that it actually looks blue. Doing the same thing here, brushing them out, and the middle ones up and the inner ones towards the inner part of my face. Still building up the color. Hopefully you can see that my lashes are blue. And a little bit on the the lower lashes. I always apply it at the root of the lash for my lower lashes so that they don't leave marks at the end of the day. I'm using the tip of the wand to get the really small lashes at the inner part of my eye. And as you can see, that is the completed eye look. So pretty. Final step of the look, lips. I'm using Cork by MAC, which is the usual color that I like to use. So just overlining at the bottom center and the top center, and then not overlining on the sides. And I'm also filling in the corners here. And I'm going to use Business Casual by MAC. This is so pretty. Look at this color. I love this color so much. I think this is it's a luster glass lipstick, so it's got a shiny finish. Very pigmented. I'm just going to tone it down by blending it with my finger. Adding a little bit more lip liner, more towards the inner part of my lips, not just the outline. So I'm not gonna put on a lip gloss for this look just because the eyes are really, really dramatic. So I'm just gonna leave the lips in its satin finish. And that is the complete look. So in love with how this came out. I really hope you try this makeup look. You're gonna love it. Let me know what kind of makeup videos you want to see next from me. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!